breaking news in the tennis world. We're talking a lot about calendar injuries, whatever it may be, but here we are. It's Saudi Arabia is set to host a new ATP Masters 1,000 level event. It was through the Surge Sports Investments, which is part of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and the tournament is set to debut on the tennis calendar as early as 2028. And we're not too sure where it's going to fall in the calendar, but right now, the most likely spot would be in February. Fergus, initial reactions to this new tournament?
Yeah, there are lots of ways to look at this. There's the way that we look at this is that money, that this is a huge money opportunity. They already host the WTA finals in Riyadh. They already host the WTA finals in Riyadh, and you've been there for the last couple of years. Turnout from fans isn't something that is like amazing. It was spoken about last year that there wasn't like a huge amount of people turning up to watch the WTA finals. Even it's like such a big event. This is, I wouldn't say it's purely a money grab, but I would say that there's definitely a heavy influence on money involved. It's also that I just feel like that's like the complete opposite of what everyone has been saying. Everyone's been saying, listen, we need to make the year shorter. There needs to be less events in the year. And we've just gone and added an event. And everyone's like, well, what are we doing? It's kind of ironic that in the same week, we add another tournament to the calendar. We have this many retirements in the two biggest ATP tournaments. It's like, well, why would we do this when, we have this much going on already? Yes, you would probably have more playing it because it's in February against start of the year. Everyone goes from AO and then kind of just goes to Doha, or they play the French indoor tournaments, Rotterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only space on the calendar to possibly fit in another Masters. But you have to do some serious rearranging of the calendar for me. Otherwise, you're just gonna have no one play this, and it's just a fail. But
yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because in my head, I thought this was only a matter of time. I feel like they have had these conversations ongoing the last year and a half, and Saudi Arabia is continuing to show like just a genuine interest, a commitment to tennis, and that's kind of through obviously the WTA finals, right? That happened in Jeddah, and then you have Next Gen, which is now in Riyadh. So I mean, look, those are two big events, and yes, you mentioned the crowd. That's something that I feel like we're not as much exposed to. We do get some good content, but we don't really understand what's going on, kind of from a day-to-day behind the scenes, and kind of like the interest, the excitement from there. But I know this is something that they've been working on. They're trying to continue to grow kind of the sport and entertainment industry over there, and that's where they're putting their money into. I think something that's important to note is obviously, right, it's a non-mandatory event. So we have 9 Masters on the calendar right now. One of them is optional or non-mandatory, and that is Monte Carlo. But this one is like Monte Carlo. So the plan is to make it kind of a 1-week Masters event, which we only have 2 of on the calendar, in Paris Bercy next week in Monte Carlo. And it's also going to be a 56-player field. So look, my honest reality is like, I think this tournament is going to blow up because it's always a little bit of a lull period. I think I'm thinking right now, and the next question I want to pose to you is kind of like, who does this hurt, especially from a calendar perspective, a tournament perspective? And like one thought that comes to me, or 2 of them, Rotterdam, Golden Swing. But apart from that, you have an opportunity to, after the Australian Open, there's kind of always a lull period before we get to our first Masters event in the Sunshine Double. So I think this kind of fills that void. And as you're saying, like we have a reduced player field. So I think it's going to be as you mentioned, like a lot of guys are going to end up loving this tournament. It's going to be big money for an 1,000 event, I think, especially come 2028. So, look, I think we'll have different conversations kind of a year or two from now, but I think it will be overall a success just kind of because it falls in that timeline. So, yeah, as I mentioned, Fergus, I mean, who do you think this impacts the most from a calendar perspective, tournament perspective?
Yeah, Rotterdam and the French, I think it's Marseille and then Montpellier.
Yep.
Probably Doha and Dubai, but you know they have the women's tournaments there as well,
Right.
so it's kind of less, you know, of a big effect. I feel like this could work because if you know, the women have Doha and Dubai 1000s, you know, back to back, and then they go straight into the Sunshine Double pretty much, you know. It works for them, and we, like, because it's a 56 player field, you feel like it might work out because, you know, it's only a 1 week Masters. You know, we all there is something completely different about 1 week Masters than 2 week Masters. You know, 1 week Masters on day one, you've got like really good matchups and all tennis for all 7 of the days is really good. You know, these 2 week Masters, they drag kind of, you know, when it's not a high quality event, and, you know, but this could work. For me, I still don't see it. I'd need to see it to believe it for me.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's why I mentioned like the money, and our producer is echoing that, like the appearance fees. You think about like the Golden Swing, Zverev doing it this year, Holger Rune, Musetti. I think, and, you know, it's not on the top of my mind right now, but we have another big player going there next year, maybe. So I think that can just like kind of help fill this sort of void where I'm not sure if that's going to be like a big destination or an option that players take. You know, this year it was Zverev trying to prep for the clay season. Yeah, he's making a lot of money to go there. So I think this might be just a better way to accumulate the top players in the same location and make it just a very exciting week of tennis.